When you recall Hollywood's golden age, you remember suave icons like Sean Connery or Errol Flynn. But what if the gentleman who captivated your youth hid a violent, terrifying secret at home? For decades, studios sold us a flawless silver screen myth, burying the harrowing truth about these beloved stars. Today, we pull back the velvet curtain to expose the dark domestic realities of classic cinema's biggest legends. Subscribe now as we unmask the untamed monsters behind Hollywood's greatest heroes. Sean Connery, the suave icon and his darker shadow. When he struck that match at the Baccarat table in Dr. No, Sean Connery didn't just introduce James Bond, he handed the 1960s an entirely new blueprint for masculinity. Tailored in a crisp tuxedo, he was the picture of cool, effortless charm. To millions of American and British moviegoers, Connery was the ultimate gentleman, a master of the room who could disarm anyone with a wry, knowing smirk. Yet that magnetic composure lived only in the spotlight. Behind closed doors, the reality was vastly different. His first wife, actress Diane Cilento, laid bare a marriage defined not by Hollywood glamour, but by the constant strain of walking on eggshells. Far from the suave secret agent, she faced a controlling, explosive partner who treated physical intimidation as a routine household tool, often forcing her to lock herself away just to feel safe. What makes Connery's legacy so complicated isn't just what happened behind scenes, but how casually he defended it in public. In an infamous 1965 Playboy interview, he candidly argued that an open-handed slap was justified if a woman was seeking a confrontation. It was no slip of the tongue. Decades later, sitting across from Barbara Walters on national television in 1987, Connery doubled down without a shred of hesitation. For an older generation that grew up idolizing 007, the truth reveals a harsh divide between the silver screen myth and the man himself. Peter Sellers, the comedic genius, and his dark private reality. When you picture Peter Sellers, you almost certainly envision the trench coat, the trilby, and the eccentric mustache of Inspector Clouseau. He was the clumsy, completely harmless genius of the Pink Panther franchise, a master of physical comedy and vocal shape-shifting who brought pure joy to millions of families. On screen, he seemed like a man constructed entirely of jokes, without a single threat in his body. Yet the moment the cameras stopped rolling and he went home, the humor evaporated. The man waiting behind closed doors was anything but lighthearted. According to those who lived with him, Sellers was downright terrifying. To his family, he was a deeply paranoid, incessantly controlling presence who turned daily life into an unpredictable psychological minefield. Swedish actress Britt Ekland, his second wife, didn't get the whimsical genius the public idolized. Instead, she found herself trapped in a suffocating environment defined by explosive rage and intense jealousy. Sellers frequently flew into sudden destructive fits, smashing property and screaming to keep her in line. He ran a silent, ruthless campaign of psychological control, dictating what she wore, who she spoke to, and how she behaved in public, all while using his immense star power to isolate her and strip away her independence. This atmosphere of fear extended straight to his children. His son Michael would later write of a childhood spent walking an endless tightrope, constantly trying to navigate his father's arbitrary and calculated cruelty. Beneath the silver screen laughter lay a shadow few fans ever saw. George C. Scott, the commanding screen legend and his dangerous shadow. George C. Scott, standing before that towering American flag as General Patton, remains one of the most indelible images in cinematic history. He commanded the screen with a gravelly voice and undeniable authority. To audiences of the 1970s, Scott was the heavyweight champion of serious acting, a man of such unyielding principle that he famously rejected an Academy Award, dismissing the ceremony as a meat parade. He projected raw power, formidable intellect, and total self-control. Yet that ironclad discipline was purely an illusion. Once the cameras stopped and the heavy drinking began, the principled artist vanished. In his place was a volatile, unpredictable man who channeled his imposing stature and booming voice not to earn respect, but to inflict terror. The most chilling account of his off-screen reality comes from Hollywood royalty Ava Gardner. Early in their relationship, Gardner realized she hadn't found a strong protector. She had walked straight into a trap. In her autobiography, she detailed how Scott's alcohol-fueled rages turned her life into a desperate struggle for survival. He didn't just have a quick temper, he was dangerously violent. During one sudden outburst, his brutal assault left Gardner with a broken collarbone and a detached retina, ultimately forcing her to flee for her life. This was no isolated tragedy. Scott's domestic volatility was a relentless, decades-long pattern that spanned multiple marriages. Yet for years, the entertainment industry largely turned a blind eye, writing off his brutality as mere artistic intensity. Rex Harrison, the suave professor, and his deadly reputation. If you stepped into a movie theater in 1964 to watch My Fair Lady, you saw Rex Harrison as the absolute pinnacle of British refinement. Playing Professor Henry Higgins, he was arrogant, sure, but undeniably charming. To millions of filmgoers, Harrison was the quintessential high society gentleman, cultivated, elegant, and effortlessly polished. Yet inside his own living room, that celebrated sophistication vanished. The man who played harmless aristocrats on the silver screen earned a far darker nickname among the Hollywood press, Rex the Hex. Harrison didn't rely on physical violence to unravel the lives around him. His brand of terror was a cold, relentless psychological warfare. Consumed by vanity and casually cruel, he demanded total devotion from his wives while systematically tearing them down. Hollywood actress Carol Landis learned this firsthand. During their tumultuous affair, Harrison's cold manipulation and callous abandonment took a devastating toll. When the relationship fractured, the emotional weight proved fatal. She did not survive the aftermath of his rejection. Years later, actress Rachel Roberts married Harrison and encountered the exact same suffocating pattern. Harrison systematically chipped away at her self-esteem with calculated contempt. When their marriage collapsed, Roberts met a similarly tragic, untimely end. Two talented women both crushed beneath the weight of one man's relentless cruelty. Jerry Lewis, the nation's benefactor, and his reign of terror at home. For decades, every Labor Day weekend, millions of American families gathered around their televisions to watch Jerry Lewis weep. As the devoted host of his annual telethon, he pleaded with the nation to help sick children. To the world, Lewis was more than a comedy legend. He was a living saint, the tireless champion of Jerry's kids. Yet the man who demanded endless compassion on national television showed none to his own family. The moment the cameras cut, the lovable goofball vanished. Inside his Bel Air mansion, Lewis ran his household like a ruthless dictator. His first wife, Patty Palmer, lived in a constant state of anxiety, enduring relentless psychological pressure and strict financial control. When she filed for divorce after 36 years, the legal filings laid bare a grim reality of domestic cruelty. The brunt of his tyranny, however, fell on his sons. The children of America's favorite family entertainer grew up paralyzed by daily fear, later describing their childhood as a hostage situation rather than a home. Lewis didn't merely discipline his boys, he actively terrorized them using leather belts to enforce absolute, unquestioning submission. By wrapping himself in the cloak of philanthropy, Jerry Lewis built an impenetrable shield, making it almost impossible for the public to believe that such a great humanitarian was behind closed doors, a monster to his own flesh and blood. Richard Burton, the voice of a generation and his destructive tempest. Richard Burton possessed perhaps the most famous voice in the English-speaking world, a rich, commanding baritone that could captivate a theater in seconds. Alongside Elizabeth Taylor, he formed Hollywood's ultimate royal court, celebrated around the globe as the very definition of epic, passionate romance. Yet when the paparazzi packed away their lenses and heavy drinking took over, that legendary romance devolved into a terrifyingly volatile reality. While the public was sold a glossy narrative of fiery lovers having passionate spats, the truth behind closed doors was severe domestic violence. Fueled by alcohol, the brilliant Shakespearean actor would vanish, replaced by a destructive, out-of-control force. Elizabeth Taylor was frequently forced to appear on film sets and in public wearing heavy makeup and dark sunglasses to conceal the physical marks of his drunken rages. Burton regularly turned luxury hotel suites into literal battlegrounds, smashing furniture and leaving a trail of physical and emotional devastation for others to quietly clean up. Yet instead of calling it what it was, the media of the era routinely glossed over his brutality, dismissing it as the mere side effect of a fiery artistic soul. Desi Arnaz, America's favorite sitcom husband and his private storm. During the 1950s, Desi Arnaz didn't just play a husband on I Love Lucy. He helped pioneer the very concept of the American sitcom family. With his quick smile, effortless charm, and musical talent, he became a beloved symbol of mid-century domestic bliss. To millions of households tuning in every week, he was the ultimate devoted partner. Yet the moment the studio audience stopped clapping, that ideal household completely evaporated. Married life with Desi Arnaz was an exhausting, terrifying ordeal. When Lucille Ball finally filed for divorce in 1960, she shattered the pristine illusion once and for all, citing grounds of extreme mental cruelty. Behind closed doors, the man who radiated patience and warmth on screen was consumed by severe alcoholism and explosive rages. Fueled by drink, he would rampage through their home in violent outbursts, smashing property and creating an atmosphere of pure panic for those around him. The entertainment industry and television networks actively buried these harrowing accounts. They held a massive financial stake in protecting the lucrative, wholesome Ricky Ricardo brand at any cost, choosing corporate profits over human reality. For an older generation raised on the magic of classic television, the truth behind Arnaz's charm reveals a tragic, striking divide between silver screen fantasy and private turmoil. Errol Flynn, the dashing swashbuckler and his dark reality. Errol Flynn was the quintessential action hero, dashing, fearless, and impossibly charming. On the silver screen, he was the chivalrous protector fighting for justice and sweeping women off their feet. Yet that heroic nobility was nothing more than a well-rehearsed costume. Offset, the valiant defender vanished. In his place was a man who embraced absolute cruelty not as a flaw but as a lifestyle. His marriage to actress Lili Damita was an unrelenting war zone. Driven by chronic alcoholism and deep instability, Flynn routinely unleashed volatile, drunken rages that turned their home into a perilous environment. What makes Flynn's legacy particularly chilling is how the Hollywood studio system actively shielded his violence. Warner Brothers deployed its massive publicity machine to bury police reports, manipulate the press, and silence anyone who dared speak out. The industry even spun his predatory habits into a popular catchphrase, "In like Flynn," repackaging his dangerous lack of boundaries as a celebrated cultural joke. For audiences who idolized the romantic swashbuckler, the reality reveals a grim truth. The man who played noble heroes on screen was in his private life a ruthless tyrant, protected by a powerful Hollywood empire. Thank you for watching today's video. If you find the content interesting or useful, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the latest videos. Your support is the biggest motivation for us to continue creating better quality content every day. What do you think about today's topic? Leave a comment below so we can discuss it together. See you in the next video. Have a great day.